So in this video, I want to talk about the seeking impulse, which is the most important, the foundational force which guides the spiritual path. It guides really every life toward fulfillment, toward awakening, toward recognition of your true self. I want to talk about how to recognize the seeking impulse, which is really half of it, and how recognizing the seeking impulse can help streamline your spiritual path. Nowadays, there is so much noise. There is so much regular noise, and even in spiritual seeking, there is so much noise in terms of different methods, different opinions, conflicting advice. What do I do? How do I move forward? How do I seek what I want? Do I do this? Do I do that? All of that noise. We're familiar with it. And the seeking impulse, by harnessing it, by recognizing what it is, by recognizing that it is always operating within you and that it can potently guide your spiritual path, you can cut through that spiritual noise. You can just go beyond the noise, accelerate your path, and really move towards expansion, true fulfillment, and accelerated fulfillment and expansion of recognition of who you truly are. So first of all, what is the seeking impulse? It is exactly what it sounds like. It is the impulse, the aspiration, the inclination, the striving within every person toward seeking. What do we seek? We seek awakening. We seek who we truly are. We seek the deeper questions of life about our source and why we're here. We seek happiness and satisfaction. And whether you are a, spiritual person, a yoga practitioner, a meditator, spiritual seeker, or not, you have this seeking impulse. Everybody has this seeking impulse. Everybody desires happiness. Whatever word we put to it, whether it is the seeking of God, whether it is the seeking of happiness, there is something in us that desires, moves towards, that's almost organized around this striving towards that fulfillment, whatever label we put on it. And ultimately, it is all the same, whether you call it source, awakening, God, intelligence, deep and lasting happiness. That is the same. And that is what we seek. There are also some people, some sages, for instance, Aurobindo, who has said that this seeking impulse, I think he calls it the evolutionary impulse or the evolutionary drive, that this is actually within all of creation. So it's not just in us as humans, but it's in all of creation. It's this organizing, intelligent, moving force, which is driving all life, all of creation, and not life in the sense of physical matter, although it expresses through that, but that force, that intelligent force, is that sort of unseen force which animates life. I like to think of just simply a plant growing towards the sun. There's this unseen, it has manifestation, but there's this unseen force. You could even say aspiration, moving toward that light. And of course, we are more complex than plants. And in us, in humans, in spiritual seekers, in any humans, this seeking impulse, this movement towards what is expansive, what is whole, what is true, what is truly us, our true selves, that manifests in the form of our aspiration, our desire, our inspiration. It is the force, it is the fundamental force which is driving us towards recognition of our true selves. It is the fundamental force that is driving all of creation toward evolution, towards more self-knowledge, more self-expression, more wholeness. Even if there are periods in nature, you might say, of destruction, disharmony, the overarching arc is toward light, truth, freedom. I like to think of the seeking impulse as a gravitational pull. What is this gravitational pull? It is the gravitational pull of God, to God, of awakening, to the recognition and expression and expansion of awakening. It is your true self, the gravitational pull of your true self toward the recognition and actualization of that true self. So, and I think by the end of this video, you'll get a sense for this gravitational pull, this like magnetizing, coalescing energy that the seeking impulse is. But I would love for, by the end of this video, for you to have a sense that actually the energy, the force behind desire, the force behind all desire is awakening, happiness, whatever you want to call it, God. And you can start to experience this coalescing, gravitational, streamlining quality to that energy when you recognize it for what it truly is, because that is what is going to propel your spiritual path, potentize your spiritual path, and cut through all of the noise, all of the confusion. You'll start to develop a confidence in your spiritual path, not because you've attained anything, but because you're connected to this fulfilling force of what you already are as it unfolds, as it guides you and expands into that which we call the path, into that which we call your life. So then how can we recognize the seeking impulse? And this is really important because the seeking impulse is really like this hidden force that is hidden right beneath our nose. It is the most palpable thing or drive within us, and yet we don't recognize it for what it is. We're kind of alienated from this infinite force that is right in front of our faces. It's like moving through our bodies right now, and we don't realize what it is. So recognizing the seeking impulse within you is half of the task. That is going to already transform your spiritual seeking in and of itself. And then there's refinements and understanding it and learning to more fearlessly follow it, to stand in it and trust it, of course. But this recognition is really a major portion of it. So how do we recognize the seeking impulse? The seeking impulse is inherent. Like I said, everyone has the seeking impulse. Everyone. And it is inherent. It is inborn. A key point for you to know here is that all desire, all aspiration, all inspiration, all desire is desire for God. All desire is desire for awakening. All desire is desire to know your true self. All desire is desire for true satisfaction, fulfillment, and happiness. Now, we might not be pursuing that in the most effective ways. In fact, many people on earth are not pursuing that in an effective way at all. Even spiritual practitioners. So all desire is a desire for God. All of it. And many of you might be like, it seems like desire has been a hindrance on the spiritual path, or maybe you learned that somewhere. And to recognize the seeking impulse, it's really important to recognize desire, the energy of aspiration and desire, stripped from the objects we project onto it. So for instance, the job we want, the car we want, the experience of bliss that we want in meditation, all of these things. So if we detach or go back from what we've been projecting the desire, the aspiration onto, if we go back to the energy of desire itself, that energy, that is God, seeking God. That is God calling for the expression of truth, freedom, that which is reflective of your true self, your true satisfaction. What we do, what we habitually do, all people alike, is that we're ignorant. In yoga terminology, avidya. There is this veil of ignorance over our true self, over our recognition of reality, truth, freedom. And we start using that natural striving, that natural inclination, that gravitational pull toward God, from God towards God, we use that to seek outside of ourselves. We use that to fill a hole, to get something. And this is the misunderstanding why we often misunderstand the energy of desire as being the seeking impulse, because we understand that craving cycle, that projecting outside of ourselves, isn't fully fulfilling. It's even destructive. It's distracting. It keeps us in these cycles for eternity, eons. And that is something to clarify. That is something to clarify in terms of that is not the desire itself. It's how that desire is being projected. It's how our ignorance, the aversion, the attraction, the fear is propelling us to use that desire. And that is why the desire has a bad reputation. That is why we often think in spiritual circles we have to conquer or ignore or get rid of desires, in that sense. But I'd like you to see that desire, go back to the energy of desire itself, that seed of desire itself, and that is that force stripped of its what we then projected onto is your true self itself. It's God itself. It's awakening itself, expressing and guiding you forward in this extremely intelligent way. You can look back on your life just right now, as you're listening to this video, watching this video, you can sort of just trace back in your life and notice that there has always been something guiding you. And this might take the form of asking more direct, deep philosophical questions. Who am I? Why am I here? But it doesn't have to be just that. It can just be the force of desire, the force of moving toward a fulfillment, something that really inspired you. There's been something that's been guiding you. Now, you might not have used that inspiration, that desire, in the most effective way. You might have had various ways of contorting, manipulating it, misunderstanding it. But I'd like you to see that it always has been operating, that it always has been there. I've already said how recognizing it is like half of what we need to do to really harness it. And why that is because we have so much, we have so many ideas, conflations, misunderstandings, misuse of this seeking impulse. We've developed a certain relationship to it, and most of the time it is tense. We have like this tense relationship with this force inside of us, or even fighting it sometimes, or sometimes just fully suppressing it. And so by recognizing this and recognizing that it is always in every moment operating, then we can start to understand it. We can start to let this like inner tension of fighting with it fall away. So look back, maybe as you're going through your day, even notice how it's operating, start to get a feel for this desire behind or before it gets projected onto certain objects. Start to get a feel that is your seeking impulse. That is the driving force of all life. That is the evolutionary drive of all creation. One last important point I want to make about the seeking impulse that will help you recognize it, that will help you feel within your being the nature of the seeking impulse, is the seeking impulse is inescapable. It is inescapable because it is what you are. You seek awakening, happiness, fulfillment. You seek expansion, love, wisdom, because it is what you are. You seek these things because it is what you already are. And if it weren't what you already are, then you wouldn't seek it. This again goes back to how this is the seeking impulse is this pull of the creator towards the creator, of the true self towards the true self, of God towards God. And all of these qualities, you could say enlightened qualities, but they're also just this common, deep, lasting happiness, these types of things that we all seek. These are inherent in our true nature. These are what is always already here. It is the basis from which we are arising from in each moment, you could say. That reality, that freedom is already here. That is the reason why you seek it. You seek it because it is true. You seek it because it is what you are. And because of that, it's inescapable. Because it is the reality of things, because it is what you are. You can only suppress it, ignore it, contort it for so long. It's going to keep knocking. You can't ignore it. You try to push it down and it comes back. You try to ignore the knock and it keeps on knocking. You can only ignore it for so long. And that is great news. That is great news because the mechanism of it is great news. You seek it because it's what you are. What a relief. What a relief. I don't have to go fill a hole, which has been causing me so much tension my whole life. And what a relief that it will keep coming back, that the actual force that can guide me, the actual intelligence that can guide me in the most streamlined way towards the fulfillment, recognition of myself, the expression of myself, the fulfillment of my dharma, my destiny, my purpose, my happiness, that is not going to go away. I can only put it's going to keep knocking. Great news. So your seeking impulse is inescapable, and that is because what you seek is what you are. So some of you might be thinking, some of you might be smart, and you're thinking, well, if what I seek is what I already am, if these enlightened qualities are already what I am, then why would I seek it? That seems to imply that I must be believing that's not what I already am. So why would I seek that? And it's a good question. And it's a lot of people in general get stuck here and end up stifling, squashing their seeking impulse because of this paradox. And a lot of spiritual seekers as well, very common among spiritual seekers to stifle it for this reason. So this idea, like I'm already whole, I'm already perfect, so therefore I don't need to seek. Most of the time, this is coming from a concept. There is a level where this is true. But until we reach that level, it is a concept, and it's usually one born of a misperception that we then have in our minds. Oh, I don't need to seek because I'm already whole, I'm already free. That's just a thought. And it usually ends up in suppression of the seeking impulse, and it ends up in complacency. The complacency, comfort clinging in subtle ways, and these are these main stiflers of the seeking impulse, the main stiflers of the full and complete recognition of your true self and fruition of that expression in your life. Complacency, comfort. So this thought, oh, well, I don't need to seek because what I am is already free, though accurate to some degree, it's a concept, and it gets used so much by all people and spiritual practitioners, and then they fall short. You don't want to fall short. You don't want to stop short of the full recognition of your extraordinary nature, the supersonic bliss and energy and expression of what you truly are, God's full glory. But I recommend both. Absolutely. Have your context of your life, of your spiritual practices, this recognition and the deepening of this recognition that what you seek is always already here. Have conviction in that. Build the faith in that and the experiential understanding of that view. That's what's going to help you when you are seeking, to not be seeking from a place of lack. I need to, taking your desire the intelligent flow of it, and then saying, I need to do this so I can get this. I need to do this insistence, this persistence, this small limited self trying to fill a hole. Having that context is so important. Already perfect, already free, already whole. Everything you seek, every enlightened quality is already inherent in your being. And as the wisdom teachings like yoga and Buddhism teach us, the kleshas, the reasons why we don't recognize our true nature here and now is because of ignorance. It is because of aversion and attraction. That could be a whole other video, but just to sum it up, what we seek, our true self, our enlightened self, the perception of reality is always here, now, and we don't see it because we obscure it with various methods of ignorance. And so that wholeness, that conviction in your true nature as being inherently, primordially present and fulfilled is the context for the spiritual path. It is the context for your life. It is the context for that path to be effective and direct and bear fruits. And I recommend at the same time, fan the flame of your seeking impulse. Recognize, get to know your seeking impulse more and more fearlessly follow the seeking impulse and light that fire. Don't stop short of the full thing, the full fruition. I think there's no end to the spiritual path in a sense. There's no end to that fire. In yoga, it's also related to tapas, desire for truth. There's not necessarily an end to it, I don't think. I think this desire, as it refines itself, as we get to deeper levels of realization and expression of our true selves, it's still there. It's, some sages speak of even after awakening, there's devotion. So I say that just to not get complacent, to not fall for the comfort, to not fall for this thought that, well, I'm already it, so I don't need to seek. Fan the flame of your seeking impulse. Fan the flame of the true desire in your heart. One of the reasons that I think is worth it to note that we develop a suppressive or combative, tense relationship with our seeking impulse is based on wisdom. But we end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So for instance, people use their natural striving, they use this desire, this seeking impulse toward like a personal ambition and really attaining something. And they recognize that they are now burnt out, that they're tense, that maybe they even have accomplished some worldly success, but they're still not fulfilled. And so there's a wisdom in that. But then often people will then associate that desire that drove the thing as the thing to like put that in a box, put that in a negative definition. But it wasn't that desire itself that led to that. There was an insight there that was true, but then there's a definition that ends up stifling our life, the fulfillment of our goals, and actualizing the blossoming of our true nature. And it happens in spiritual practice a lot. I was talking to someone recently, and he was describing that he used to have this approach or belief in yoga. It was a yoga practitioner. There was some wall, and on the other side was everything he wanted. And it was, enlightenment that's over there. And if he practiced every day, if he was committed, and if he, made these perfect shapes, something would unlock and he would get over that wall. And he was saying how he realized that was such a fallacy. Great insight because what we are seeking is always already here. We can't get to it from a belief in lack and then this physical striving toward what? There is a fallacy. So there is a fallacy in that. But I could see he also was kind of became a little complacent, a little floaty. That fire dimmed. So this is a commonality, this is a trend, and this is something we can recognize right now. You can have an insight on right now and free your seeking impulse from that misperception, that it was the striving, that it was the desire, it was the evolutionary force itself that caused a problem. No, it was your ignorance. It was your manipulation of reality. It was your lack of understanding of who you truly are. It was your belief in yourself as unworthy, and then misusing the seeking impulse. So the seeking impulse is inescapable, and that is great news. It's always going to keep knocking, and it's always going to keep knocking because it is what you already are. What you seek is what you already are, and it's always, every moment, this is coming through you or trying to come through you. And as I was preparing this video, thinking about this video, a quote came to mind. And this isn't particularly a spiritual quote. This is a quote from Rilke, from Letters to a Young Poet. He's talking about writing. But this, I don't know when I read this, but it just popped in my mind as like, doesn't this really encapsulate the nature of the seeking impulse? And whether the manifestation of your seeking impulse is writing or not, I think you can really feel the vibe of what he expresses about the seeking impulse without talking about the seeking impulse directly. So I'm going to read that. You are looking outside, and that is what you should avoid most right now. No one can advise or help you. No one. There is only one thing you should do. Go into yourself. Find out the reason that commands you to write. See whether it has spread its roots into the very depth of your heart. Confess to yourself whether you would have to die if you were forbidden to write. This most of all. Ask yourself in the most silent hour of your night, must I write? Dig into yourself for a deep answer. And if this answer rings out in assent, if you meet this solemn question with a strong, simple, I must, then build your life in accordance with this necessity. Then take that destiny upon yourself and bear it, its burdens and its greatness, without ever asking what reward might come from outside. There are several aspects of that quote that really express the nature of the seeking impulse and how we as humans relate to it. There are a few things. There's that like you can't ask for advice. No one can advise you. All the different books and spiritual advice and all the things popping up on your Instagram of do this, do this, do this. All of this noise. Cut through all of this noise. Go within and ask yourself. And what I also love about this quote is he mentions organize yourself around that. If you go within and you ask and you find this seeking impulse, whatever form it takes, or even without a necessary form or expression, a symbol of it, but the energy itself. And if this feels true, organize your life around it. Organize your life around it. And that's such a great and necessary point, because this is the coalescing, this is the accelerating, the potentizing, the magnetic, streamlining force of the seeking impulse, is that it's not just like we have our life and then we have our spiritual desires or whatever way our desires are showing up. It's like that desire, that seed, that seeking impulse is the organizational force of your life. It is the organizational intelligence of your life and your path and your seeking and your finding and your expression of your radiant, true, powerful self. And as we recognize our seeking impulse, we recognize for what it is. We liberate it from our limiting conceptions, from our ignorance, from our mental boxes about what this energy is. As we free our minds from our limiting thoughts and conceptions, so our seeking impulse can coalesce, so it can gain momentum, so it can create this slipstream available in every moment toward the recognition and expression of our true, luminous, radiant, powerful selves. As we do this, our spiritual path streamlines. There is intelligence. We become confident. We're not swayed by self-doubt and confusion. And do I do this? Do I listen to this advice? But this advice conflicts. We become strong, faithful, confident. We have conviction in the true nature of who we are. And we have the deep satisfaction of having faith in that, fearlessly following that, and in each moment having the satisfaction of God guiding us toward our individual expression of God.